Trouble in my way. I got to cry sometimes. Trouble in my way. I got to cry. Trouble in my way. I got to cry sometimes. Oh, Jesus.
We can be filled with the Holy Spirit. And as I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Hello everyone. My name is Lety and 3 years ago I sat where y'all are sitting at right now when I began my R.C.I.A process. How I got here is kind of weird because I never intended to become Catholic. In fact, I fought it tooth and nail. I was baptized Catholic as a baby when I was 6 weeks old, and from that point on, I knew that I was Catholic because I was baptized Catholic, my family was Catholic, but I knew nothing about the Catholic faith whatsoever. When I was 8, I started going to a Baptist church, and I went to that church until I was 15. That's where I learned about Jesus, that's where I learned about salvation, that's where I learned that God loved me. But every time I would go back to the pastor and ask him, how did I know God loved me, even though I kept doing things that I shouldn't be doing, he never really had an answer for me. He kind of just rebaptized me. So I was baptized in that church twice. So I have that sacrament very covered. When I was about 14, I started becoming sexually promiscuous. I was sexually abused as a child for a very long time, and I did not know how to love, how to receive love, or how to be anything other than giving myself, trying to find love in ways that were not good. So when I was 15, I started running away, being very promiscuous and acting up, and my mother decided to move me to Amarillo with the rest of my family. Well, not just me, but her and me. And I rebelled against everything that she ever told me. I didn't drink or anything like that, but I ended up pregnant at 16, and my son is the best blessing that ever happened to me. He's 18 now, and it's getting better. I like 18, I think. He graduated from high school last May, and he is the love of my life. I love him very much. So when I was pregnant with him, my parents, my mom, and my aunts, my grandmother, and everybody said you have to have him baptized. So you need to go to R.C.I.A, or not R.C.I.A, but you need to go to classes, get your sacrament so you can baptize your son. And so I went to R.C.I.A for the very first time, and I had a lot of questions. Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Like I said, I went to a Baptist church for a long time, and the things that they told me about Catholicism were very sunk in. And so I had a lot of questions, and nobody really wanted to answer them. They gave me the same answers as I got from, with Baptists it was because the Bible says so, and Catholics it's because the church says so. And nobody really ever gave me the why. And I'm a very stubborn person, and I have to know the whys, otherwise I'm not going to listen. So I dropped out, and I didn't get my sacraments, I didn't get my son baptized. I went on to get married and have 3 more children, and then that marriage ended after 8 years, and that's when things got really crazy, because at this point I was already older, I was working in a bar, I started drinking, I had 4 children under the age of, I don't know, 6 or something, and I was just really spiraling out of control. I would pick up my kids in the morning from my mom's house to take them to school, wearing the same clothes that I had worn the day before, smelling like a bar, and most of the time probably still drunk to take them to school. I knew that that's not the life that I wanted for my kids, but at the time I didn't know that there was an option. I looked at people who were Christians, and I looked at people who went to church, and I made fun of them. I thought that they were missing out on all these fun things that I got to do. I thought that they were nerds and geeks and who knows what else, and I was the cool one. And when I laid in bed at night, I was alone, and I cried myself to sleep almost every single night. And so, in May of 2007, my best friend, Homer, died in a car accident. And within a week of him passing away, I lost my house, I lost my car, I lost my job. I pretty much lost everything. I didn't lose my car, sorry. I lost everything else though, except for my car. But it was going to get revoked. my car and I moved to Austin from Amarillo with my kids. We had no idea where we were going or what we were going to do when we got here, or where I was going to work or anything. And we made a way though, and I stayed at home with my kids and I went to work, and I thought, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing now. I'm doing the mom thing. I'm staying at home with my kids. I'm not partying. I'm not, dating anybody, if you could call me ever having dated anyone. And something was still missing. What I didn't ever realize was the day that I decided to come to Austin, I actually yelled out at God to help me. But it wasn't the kind of yelling where you would think, like, please, dear God, help me. I accused him of hating me, of punishing me, of doing this to me. And I didn't understand why he was doing it to me and everybody else got to be happy. Well, once we got to Austin and I thought I was doing everything right, it still felt like he was punishing me. Still, things were not, I wasn't happy. And so, New Year's Day of 2008, I sat in my closet and I just cried. And I really didn't have any way out. I felt very trapped and sad and alone and like a complete failure as a mother and as a daughter, as a human being. And I said, whatever it is you want from me, just take it. Just take it and help me, because I can't do this by myself. The very next day, I got an email from my childhood sweetheart. His name is Stacy, and we've been inseparable ever since. He was in Iraq at the time, and he came home in May of 2008 and moved in with me. And we were both knew that was wrong, but we didn't care because we were still doing things our way. And we moved to Round Rock. And as we were passing 35 to get to where we found our house, I saw the domes of this parish. And I told Stacy, I said, we need to start going back to Mass. And he said, yeah, we do need to start going back to Mass. And it started with a Christmas here and an Easter there, and a Sunday every once in a while. And then he left for Afghanistan. And I had two choices. Either I was going to get my sacraments and make him marry me, or I was going to go and start drinking and partying at the bar. And I didn't want to go back down that road again. So I decided to come to Mass on Sunday, and I heard the pulpit announcement for R.C.I.A, and it was the very next Monday. And so I was like, I'm going to do this time. I'm going to get my sacraments, and Stacy's going to marry me, and we're going to live happily ever after. Never in that plan did I think I would be Catholic. I was just going to check the boxes, I was going to do the deal, I was going to get my Catholic papers, and we were going to move on with our life. And the very first night that I sat in that chair, and I heard Noe talk about his love for God, and how much God loved me, and I saw the love and the passion in his voice of Christ, I recognized it from my childhood. And I had never in my life heard a Catholic talk like that about Jesus. And I went home, actually I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes just sobbing, because I knew that this was it. This was what I had been looking for the whole entire time. That I had moved, I had done all kinds of stuff trying to make things right, and it wasn't what I wanted. This was what I wanted. And so I came to talk to Noe the next day or a couple days later, and he said that God had touched me. And I was like, there's no way. I have done the most horrible things. There's no way that he even had a place for me anymore. And he said, just keep coming, just keep coming. And so I did, and in the middle of it, I still was very much a C, and I still was deciding things for myself. And I got a DWI in the middle of my R.C.I.A process. And I thought, this is it. I'm going to tell Noe I got my DWI, and I'm not coming to this R.C.I.A anymore. Stacy broke up with me. Everything was terrible. And I'm trying so hard to be this good Catholic, and God still doesn't accept me, or whatever. I don't know what I thought. It was crazy. And Noe just loved me through it. And Cindy loved me through my car getting re-put in the parking lot one night. And they supported me, prayed for me, smiled at me at Mass, encouraged me to keep coming. And eventually things worked out with me, and Stacy got back together. We got married 2 years ago. Our 2-year wedding anniversary will be on Sunday. And Noe was there at our wedding, and Cindy and everybody just so much supported us in our wedding and our life, and my children are good Catholic children. They love coming to Mass. Sometimes it doesn't look like they love coming to Mass, but they really do. I went from having friends who were drug dealers and gang members and all kinds of stuff to right now I can honestly say that two of my closest friends are the priests of this parish. And speaking of confession, I couldn't say that if there wasn't that seal of confession. But they are great, wonderful priests. And everything that God has done for me, He can do for every one of you. And if you're sitting here, it is because He's called you here. I am a walking miracle. I cannot explain to you in this short amount of time all the things that I have gone through, all the miracles that have happened in my life in the last 3 years. The fact that I'm even standing here is a miracle. And He must do all that for you too.
A little bit about what Father Jonathan told you and Stacy before you got married.
Oh, okay, speaking of things when you're doing them your way to God's way. So Stacy was in Afghanistan, and he was coming home on June 29th, and so I made an appointment with Father Jonathan for June the 30th. We need a meeting with you because we want to get married. Because at the time we lived in the same house, but we were both like, we're going to do things the right way. We're going to get married in the church. We're not going to live like this anymore. And so Father Jonathan's getting married us like tomorrow. And so I made an appointment with him, and Father Jonathan said, yeah, come on in. We'll, sit down and have a talk. And Father Jonathan said, yeah, I'll marry y'all in 3 months. And we're like, okay, 3 months, that gives us time. And we're thinking wedding plans, right? And Father Jonathan's like, in those 3 months, though, you have to be chaste. First of all, we didn't even know what that word meant. What is that word? Can you define it for us? And so he did, and Stace just sat there with his arms crossed, and he was like, I'm not doing it. He's like, I'm not listening to that priest. What is he, 12? So Father Jonathan already knows the story, so it's not like insulting. And so we get in the car, and I'm like, but we want to do this the right way, and he just had a big, huge fit about it, and he was like, we're not, going to do that, this and this and that. Well, I don't know what happened. It was the grace of God, I guess. But we sat down with Father Jonathan, and Father Jonathan said, you can do things like the way I'm asking you to, or you can't. Or you can go get married, there's lots of other people that will marry you. You can get married in the JP office, but I'm not the one that has to live in your marriage. You're the one that has to live in your marriage, and you want the grace of God to bless your marriage. So this is what I'm telling you need to do. So after that meeting, Stace was like, okay, we'll do it. So we did. That 3 months doesn't seem like a long time for a lot of people, but I was sexually active from the age of 14. I had never in my life sacrificed something like that for anybody. And Stacy sure didn't, and especially being a man in this world today where they tell you that, men don't do that. He sacrificed it for me. And the thing about it is that the day that he married me, I knew that he loved me more than any other man had ever loved me in my life, because he sacrificed himself for me. And that's what God calls every man to do for his wife. And I know that I have that husband, and that makes me feel great. And it's the grace of God, and it's the guidance of a great and wonderful priest. And Noe, because we came to Noe and told him, can you please talk to Father Jonathan? He's crazy.
I agree.
And Noe said, okay, whatever. And so he goes and talks to Father Jonathan, and I don't know what Father Jonathan told him. He's like, y'all need to be obedient. When we asked what we chose obedience. And that's another thing I've never done. And there's lots of things that we've done that with, but our marriage is very, very good and solid. And I know that there's the grace of God because I haven't killed him, and he hasn't killed me.
Got a bleeding heart, I got to moan. Got a bleeding heart, I got to moan. I got a bleeding heart, I got to moan. Oh, Jesus, my